7 years ago, right after our second was born, she started a company teaching childbirth education classes. So she, for 5 years, taught in-person childbirth education classes, and then she transitioned it all online when COVID started. And so it's all been online since then. So she's multifaceted and always working on expanding her business and all that.
Man, see, we both married up. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, okay, what did COVID expose to you in particular? Because I feel like a lot of people are like, man, you know what? I don't want to drive. I don't want to commute. Matter of fact, I'm not getting paid enough. And then all these like different alternate universe branches, right, started happening. And then we have a supply issue, and it started to unearth a lot. So what did it show you during the shutdowns?
Man, COVID has been interesting in our family because I tell everybody, man, we've been like 99th percentile in luck in everything. So this is gonna make me sound fancy and bougie, but I promise you it's not. But we have we have au pairs that help us with our childcare. And so they live with us. We've had au pairs since 2016. And so we had an au pair that joined our family in January 2020. And then COVID hit. But we got lucky, man, because she studied early childhood education in college.
Oh.
And so when the kids were home doing school, I had a 5-year-old, and a 7-year-old, and then we had a 1-year-old at home. And so she was able to help the kids through. And so that was interesting. And then Lisa, she never stopped going to work because she's in the medical field. So women that were pregnant and needed to have a visit, they still needed to be seen because they were 36 weeks pregnant.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, so she was still going to work, man. It's like, like Rudy Gobert got COVID, the NBA shut down, and then Friday, like the whole world shut down. Well, she went to work on Monday, it just, she didn't stay home. And then my job I have now, I accepted the job early February 2nd of 2020. And I know the date because I tell this story a lot. And I started on April 1st, 2020. So the world was completely different by the time I started. And so I had probably 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks at home. And then I had to go into the school because we had to figure out how we were going to open back up. And so I was home a little bit, but like we weren't locked down for months and months at the house, like we were both trying to navigate, and like putting on masks, and we didn't know if the mask was going to do anything or what, we were just out there. So it's been different, and in the workspace for me, the supply chain disruptions have been brutal, like pieces of equipment that you could get off the rack or would take a month to get in, take 6 months to get in. Cost is way through the roof, and in some ways this stuff was going to be good. You thought like prices are up, but that means people are getting paid more, but like it's been difficult, we hire cafeteria staff, right? And the wage that we pay them is up. It has to be in order to hire people, and that's good for people, right? They're making more money.
Right.
It means we got to charge our families more tuition, but that's good for people. But then inflation, I think, has been the killer. So the supply chain stuff, in some ways, unless it's like a medication or, that kind of, those are first world problems, man. Like it takes us a longer time to get, routers and switches to do our network project at school. First world problems, man. But some of this with the inflation, like that's really hitting our teachers hard, and teachers are people we've asked a lot of the last 2 years.
Yes.
And then for the, it's hitting everybody, right? But because I work in a school, I know that those teachers are feeling it. They're having a hard time, And so I think that's the part that has come out of COVID where you just realize that the struggle is really real for people.
We have our first comment, and it says inflation or corporate greed.
Both, right? I mean,
always both. It's never one thing or the other, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, the inflation is real because of supply shortages, and that causes prices to go up. Like our chef in our kitchen, he's from Taiwan. And so he's giving me the heads up. He's like, I got, my people are back in Taiwan. He's telling me the surge is real. This is 6 weeks ago. And he's saying, hey man, like we get all of our utensils that are compostable. And we have, like compostable utensils. He's like, those are all made in Taiwan. I'm telling you, the COVID surge is happening there again. And the supplies are going to get choked off again. It's going to be hard to get the materials. And so when there's not as many materials to go around, the price goes up. But some of the stuff, yeah, certainly, they're just charging more for it because they can. I mean, I always think gas is one of those things. And I'm not an economist, but I've worked in finance over my career. Gas is one of those things where they get you, right. That price goes up way faster than it comes down, and they only drill for oil and produce gas when it's expensive. And that's just one of those things. So it's difficult. But yeah, it's inflation and corporate greed. That's for sure.
So I was talking with someone about how did they put it? Unintended consequences versus unintended rewards. So if you look at the war in Ukraine, it's almost like Socrates in his trial, right? Like, this is a bad thing. I don't know, maybe. Well, I mean, think about the war and, this is bad for gas prices. I don't know, maybe. But then here in New Mexico, one of the worst ranked states as far as education goes, we now have like billions of dollars in surplus just on the gas taxes alone.
Wow.
In my home state of Tennessee, they started paying teachers a little bit better because of how much we're making across the country on these crazy gas prices, which just makes me think like, we really could get rid of every single problem in the world if we all just decided, let's all pay a little bit more. And it's not just on people in a certain tax bracket. It's incumbent upon all of us, right? Because I think the greatest trick in the world is, you can't fix one thing by just fixing one thing at a time, or you can't fix a problem by fixing one thing at a time. You have to fix all those connectors at the same time to see some real productive, fruitful growth. And I think that's just a weird thing, man. We can complain about gas, but it helped a lot.
Yeah.
So how do we do that without paying taxes? I guess is the question. Senator
You
Holloway.
Yeah, you can't, right? I mean,
no shortcuts, huh?
Yeah, right. But I mean, one of the things I decided, and this is, people can judge how they want to, but I decided 7 or 8 years ago, the gas is going to gas. That's how I feel, right? And there's nothing I can do about it. I got to drive a certain amount. And so I'm just going to buy me some stocks in oil companies. And that'll be my hedge against that, right? That hasn't worked as well as I thought it would, truthfully. But that's what I decided to do. But you're right, there's always trade-offs. And it's difficult. I've really come to, on the one hand, I agree with you, right? Like we could all do things to make a difference. But I would also say that there are probably those of us in our society that get away with doing less than the majority of people. Like I'm not a socialist, I'm not a communist, I'm a capitalist, but I also believe in everybody paying their fair share. And I've just seen that side of it, being in finance, where there's definitely people that kind of, they find their ways, right, to pay what I would call less than their fair share. They must say, I pay more than everybody else. Like, yeah, that's less than your fair share. So that's me.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like so you can trace it back to that little in-between period. I think it's Nixon and Reagan, right? Somewhere off in there, where people of a certain bracket were paying a ton in taxes. And that was probably around the last time we saw, productivity go up, inflation go up, and wages go up together. Wages have been kind of stagnant.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't even know how to attack such a large problem like that. Like, how do we convince?
I have lots of ideas on that. Yeah. Well, so
Yeah.
this is actually we have stumbled on one of my favorite topics because my so I'm from Oklahoma, and Oklahoma is a very conservative state. People believe in small government, low taxes, low regulation, and so most people there are fairly conservative, including my own father. but he is very much so of the opinion that Ronald Reagan really ruined is too strong of a term, but he may have ruined the American economy because for the
What? Not the
longest
great
time,
Reagan. Come on,
not the
sir.
great
I would
Reagan.
not have this on
No,
my show. You see all this red in the
hey,
background? How dare you?
hey, no, let me break it down for you though.
Okay, please.
So if for a long time in this country, reducing one's tax bill was frequently tied to one's willingness to invest and reinvest profit. And that was rewarded. So if you owned a business and you made $1 million in revenue and you paid your employees, $700,000, and you invested $200,000 of that back into your business, and you took $100,000 home, then you paid taxes on $100,000, and so your tax bill was that. And if you wanted to take $300,000 home because those tax brackets it was so big, once you got up there, you paid a lot more in taxes. You were incentivized to reinvest in your business to keep your tax burden low. Well, what the Reagan era ushered in was an extreme reduction in tax rates. And so, when you just reduce the rates and you don't incentivize people to go business, grow the business in the economy, or to pay their people more, and they're incentivized to take more money home for themselves, well, what's going to happen? Executive pay is going to go up. Pay for the rank and file worker will stagnate. And that's what's happened. That's what you've seen for the last 40 years in this country. And it's a shame. And I don't know how to fix it. I think that was the origin of the problem. And so if you had tax rates that were in the 60 and 70%, you could fix that. But that is completely untenable in this country at this point. There's no way you could get that done.
I would not have you come on this show and talk such nonsense, sir. How dare you? Because let me tell you about the great Reagan. Let me tell you about the great Reagan, sir. He figured it all out. Okay? He figured it all out. All we got to do is stop, drugs getting in the hands of kids.
That's right.
With with the DARE program. And then the other thing is we got to make sure the people who are doing well in this country can continue to do well by not paying their share and also not paying their employees, while telling people like you and I, sir, that all we have to do what they do is pull ourselves up by our bootstraps.
That's right.
How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? No, but I mean that's what it comes down to. Like my wife, like she gets at me all the time for just pacing the floor and like, if we just do this, then we can do this. And if we just do that, we can do it. I'm just all over the place. She was just like, people, no matter where you look, there are always going to be people involved at this point, and there are always going to be corrupt people, and they're a little bit louder, a little bit more willing and assertive to put themselves out in front and tell you exactly why they deserve these things. Like you have your fancy degree and whatnots with your fancy light above your head. Right, I have my HBO Max, and on this thing, this streaming platform, there's a show called The Gilded Age. So it's basically like Downton Abbey for America. If you haven't seen it, I highly suggest it.
I'll check it out.
Oh my goodness, these little intricate like ways to separate me from you. First of all, it's all made up. It's all made up. But the idea that the small stem on your glass is so you can touch as little of the glass as possible, because you don't want to touch the goblet part, because that's what the servants touch. The same glass you're going to drink out of. Like, I don't understand all these things. Like, they're bored and just come up with a bunch of rules to make life more interesting. But in this country, according to Bernie Sanders and PolitiFact and all this stuff, they asked Bernie Sanders, like, okay, you keep talking about taxes. How high would you go on that percent? And he was like, I don't have an exact number, but I will tell you, under Eisenhower, it was around 90%.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you're talking about. You pay a lot, but at the same time, you get a lot back if you're doing things with your employees or some sort of philanthropy. Like, there's got to be a way to tell a good, solid story and put that in the politicians, or let the politicians tell that good story to get people back on board to, the American dream. If you have a lot, you give a lot.
Yeah. It worked. It worked for a long time for this country. It's people always talk about, this is going to be the downfall of America, or that's going to be the downfall of America. Drugs. I really think economic greed is the downfall of America. Eventually one day, right? Unless you get it back on track, man. People won't stand for it forever. Oh, you muted, Jeremy.
Appreciate it. Good eye. As usual. That captain of the old line right there. So after my football days, it was, I kept up with the little bench, little curls or whatever. Didn't do many squats. And it didn't look good. It didn't work out that well. So I understand a little bit about being top heavy. And I'm here to tell you, US of A, let's not do it. Let's not follow the footsteps of every single great empire in the history of the world and get top heavy and topple. Yeah. Where the little people want to eat the big people.
That's right.
Yeah, we all need each other, man.
We do. But
look, I want to talk. So, okay. I mean, we went way off. But I like this ideal of if you have a lot, give a lot. You know what I mean? It's what the great Reagan would say, trickle down economics, right?
Right.
If we take care of the big guys, they'll pass it along,
Right. They'll grace us with a little morsel every once in a while.
That's right. So I had Mama Jules was on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And she's down there in Nashville still doing well, bossing people around as usual. And one of these, I asked her because she's at a private school as well, or maybe it's a charter, private. I don't know.
It's a private school, yeah.
Yeah. So I was asking her, like, she was talking about all these great programs and resources, and I asked her, like, how do we, I don't know, like, just get less, like, I don't want to say lesser or lower, but low income families, right, and their children pushing for those same types of resources at their schools. And one of the things that they do is they have a program where I guess they have, I don't know how they pick the students, but they have the students come on their campus and tour and look around. They show them the computer lab and all these different things, get them excited, get the parents excited, and they have them go back and tell the tales of work hard and maybe we can get here. What can we do to get people to a school like the one that you work at? Now, look, is it Murray?
Murray, yeah, that's good. That's really good.
No, I cheated. I so cheated. I can't let that stand. I am so sorry. I cheated. I watched the video and everything. I was like, because at first, okay, all right. We won't tell anybody this, but okay. But I know we're live, but we'll find a way.
Just us. Okay, so I thought you might have misspelled market. And I was like, let me second guess that, man. Not Trey. Let me second guess myself, humble myself. Maybe I have it wrong. Maybe. And of course I did. And I was like, oh, okay, married. All right. And then I'm watching the video and here at Murray, it's like, oh, I've completely got this wrong. So tell us a little bit about your position. What do you do? Why? All the things. Yeah. So in my role, I'm assistant head of school for finance and operations. So finance, operations, IT, human resources, and facilities all report into my role. And so with that, my day could be consumed with, working with our director of facilities on a big HVAC repair, like to the air conditioning system. It could be consumed with a technology problem. We had like the wireless internet went out one day on campus, which is like a complete tragedy for a school with a bunch of high school kids. So those things all fall in my role. I've got a team of about 15 or 16 people across those different departments. Well, more than that, when I count all the guys on the facilities team, it's 22. So that's my role. I interface with all the different departments. I interface with the academic departments, with our admissions folks, athletics, because we hold all the money in my part. So we make the budget and everything. So it's been fun working at a school because you get to know it in a different way, right? I mean, like I knew school kind of growing up one way, And I went to a school that's very similar to Murray, for 7th through 12th grade. But you just get to see the other side of it. And it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting because the school, I'm not surprised that her school has, ways that they try to get kids in the door. The
Mm-hmm.
the guy who's the head of her school knows the woman who's the head of my school
What?
pretty well. Yeah. So both of our schools are involved in something called the Malone Schools Online Network, MSON. And so the kids at the school can take online courses from teachers at different schools. And so a kid from my school may be in an online course with a kid from Jules' school in Nashville. So there's a bit of a connection there. But the schools, these private schools these days, they really are focused a lot on outreach. Like I know our admissions folks, they go to events that are held in different parts of the city to try to reach families that maybe traditionally haven't heard about Murray, right? To try to get them interested in the school, to publicize what the school can offer. We have on our campus in the summertime, we have something that's called Horizons of Greater Washington. And it's a program for kids that are in the public schools in DC, where it's a summer enrichment program. And it's not run by our school, but we host the school. We host the program at no charge on our campus, and we run busing for them all summer. So we bus the kids to the campus, and then we bus them back to central drop-off locations. And so they come on campus. They get to use our facilities, and their camp counselors and some of our folks are involved. Some of our donors at the school are also donors to this program. And then not a ton of kids, but some of the kids end up matriculating to our school, which is good, because they're often kids that maybe come from a less economically advantaged background. I think there's always more work to be done on that front, though, right? To make sure it's not a token effort, to make sure it's something that the school really believes in.
Right.
And I think one of the things the schools have gotten really good at is saying the words, right? So we're really good at saying the words that we believe it is a good educational experience for everybody when there are people of all different backgrounds at the school. That's racial backgrounds, ethnicity, religions, different socioeconomic status. That brings a level of enrichment to the classroom. And I think by and large, we enact that. It gets messy at times, right? Like we have issues because when you bring a lot of different kinds of people together, when you've got kids and families there that are their ethnic origins are in the Middle East, but some of them are Jewish, and some of them are maybe Arab. But you can have tension sometimes if you do something that comes across the wrong way, and that's happened at our school, right? But I think out of that tension usually can come a better understanding of each other, and it teaches if we can do it in the right way. And that's been tough during the pandemic, when there hasn't been as much face-to-face as you would like. And that's been a tough part about schools. Hopefully we can bring some of that back together. So that's the part that I've loved about working at a school. That's completely different, right? Like you get to see that different piece of it, where our school has an opportunity to not just teach kids, algebra and geometry, but really teach them some stuff that can hopefully help them in real life. Not that you don't use algebra, but I think you learn more about learning about other people than you do about learning how to solve an equation.
Right. Well, if you want to do something mathematical, how about how to budget, how to save? You're laughing, but I'm telling you, these are words that I never really paid attention to till I was well into my adulthood.
Yeah.
I mean, like coming from where I came from, like you didn't have time to worry about saving your budget. It's like, can I make it to next week?
Yeah.
Right. The ideal of robbing Peter to pay Paul was just like a creed, in our house.
Yeah.
But I like the ideal of not being a token effort to get kids in.
Yeah.
Because I really do believe that if you guys don't have that program, or whoever hosts it, I know it's hosted at your campus, but if that program doesn't exist or others like it, what are the chances that these kids will get an opportunity to even know about a place to go and then pursue going there? It's really important outreach.
Yep. Yeah, like I said, I think we could probably, we can always stand to do more, right? Because there's always, and it's a push pull, because if a kid comes from a background where they can't pay full tuition, you have to really make sure you have the money to help that family with tuition, right? And so you've got to have enough people who are paying the full tuition so you can help with the other tuitions, because you know that this rich white kid whose family makes $1.5 million a year, their children will benefit from going to school with kids who don't have that kind of background, right?
Yep.
And the kid whose family is scraping together $36,000 a year in income, they will benefit from going to school with the kid whose family makes $1.5 million a year, right? But how do you bring those two kids and those two families together in a way that makes sense? I think that's the struggle, but it's something that I think our kids benefit from at the school when we do it right.
When we do it right, look at that.
Yeah.
Always room for humility. I love it. I love it. So there are places, or in some situations, diversity can be a dirty word, right? Because it gets tossed around in so many different situations and co-opted for somebody trying to make a personal point. But Napoleon Hill has a book. It's Outwitting the Devil. Have you had a chance to take a look at that? So it's basically a very brilliant guy who's interviewing the titans of industry, right? And then Carnegie tells him, you do better to pay attention to more people who failed than all of we who succeeded, right? Because I've learned way more from my failures than my successes. But he basically tricks the devil into having an honest conversation. And he says part of the deal is he has to address the devil by, his royal title, whatever. And then the devil tells him every single thing, every trick that he uses against humanity. And so understanding that one of the biggest things was building a hive mind, right? If you walk through the minds of the great writers and philosophers of old, right, through reading or watching some sort of cinema attached to that, and then you talk to people who aren't just gonna say the same things that you say or do what you do, that builds a hive mind. So even you and I having this conversation now, I have no experience in private schools and how they operate and any of that, and you do. And now we're exchanging, and where you laugh at the ideal of like budget, save, like I'm just like, no, tell me more. I've got people in the comments saying like, hey man, you tell me that all the time. Matter of fact, stay on me about that. That's my boy Sidney Williams. Shout out to him from Let's Talk with Gales and Dean podcast. But yeah, like people from my neighborhood just like, what is this saving thing you speak of? So it's super important to have those conversations with people who don't have the same life as you. And there's nothing wrong with diversity. I think one of our biggest problems now is we humans who are poor communicators, right? We don't give a lot of room to be offended and take the time to explain. Hey, I tell my kids all the time, like, hey, make sure your siblings know when you're offended and why, and give them a chance to correct the behavior. If they don't, you can't frap with them. Oh, by the way, I told you it was gonna be random. Let me talk to my audience real quick. I'll be right back with you. Don't go anywhere. All right. So, anywho, hey, get that out of here. Hey, welcome back to What the Frap Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Zilla. I'm here with one Trey Holloway. Hey, Mr. Holloway.
Hello.
30 minutes. Yes, sir. So, yeah, okay. This word frap is spreading like wildfire. Like, I just use it with the assumption that everybody knows what that means, right? And people are just like, wait. What are you saying? You're not saying the F word. Hold on. What is that? And I explain where I got it from. So I have been doing like a small poll. I asked Liz. She said a person. I asked Mama Jules. She said another person. Who came up with the word frap?
I mean, I would say Bobby Johnson.
What? Really?
That's what I would. That's yeah.
See, I'd always heard it came from Marlon, Liz thought it was Otis, and I said no. Otis was just the like front man for the word because he was like, when he made that, rest in peace, him, man.
Yeah, R.I.P. Otis. Yeah.
Yeah, when he
Nah, man, a Frapp goes back to at least like 2002.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It goes back. I think it was OG Bobby Johnson.
Which is great because I remember first getting there and just being like, okay, all right, nervous and whatever. We came back from the All-Star game in Knoxville. So I graduated, went to Knoxville for the week of All-Star festivities or whatever, and then to Vandy. And my coach told me, hey, put your life over there in the corner, your stuff's in the locker room, be on the field 10 minutes. It started already? You know what I mean? And so super nervous and not sure what to expect, and trying to push myself through it. I think it was the 110 test, right? I couldn't speak afterwards. I definitely did not finish. But this I did, man. When they were explaining so there's a no cursing policy, which was right up my alley because at the time I was not a cursor. Right? And I was just like, yeah, well, okay, I was gonna let it rip. You know what I mean? I was about to let it rip. But I'm gonna respect the rules here. I'm new.
I'll hold back.
Yeah, and I fell in love with that word Frapp. I brought it home, and my mom was like, is that bad? It was so great watching people have this mental jujitsu with themselves of I think it's okay. No,
what are you saying?
Yeah, I don't like your tone. I think that's what she finally landed in. I don't like the tone what you're saying. Yeah. Well, that's good stuff, man. Any memories you want to share from your Vandy days, man?
Oh my gosh. I mean, memories from Vandy days. There's so many. The things that I probably remember. Obviously, the things I remember the most are just times with teammates. But usually just chilling in the dorms. That was a big one, right? Playing video games. And really the summers, the summertime was when you really got to bond with your teammates because you had run of the campus, right? And you just had more free time. There's the athletes and then there's the regular students, right? Mm-hmm. And you always kind of wonder, what's it like to be a regular student? And I think in the summertime, you got a little bit of a feeling of what it was like because, a lot of us had jobs. Maybe the job started at 9 o'clock or something and went till 12. And then you would go work out, I know my last couple of summers, I didn't take any summer classes. I'd work for 3 or 4 hours in the morning and I go work out, then your day's over at 3 o'clock, and you have time to go do whatever it is you want to do. And you started at 9. And I always imagined that's what it was like for the regular students. They had class from 9 to noon, then they go get lunch. And then maybe they had another class, and then they had time to do what they wanted to do. And so you could hang out in the afternoons and, go chill with your teammates and not have to worry about getting up early the next day. It was really the college experience. That's the big memories, going out to eat, ordering takeout, that kind of stuff, where you just got a lot of free time with your teammates to hang out and chill. That's the stuff you remember, And then I remember a lot of the games that I played in, the games, especially my senior year. A lot of memories, my senior year when we beat Arkansas on the road. I can still see Zach Logan dancing in the locker room after we beat Arkansas because he's from Arkansas and he was too turned up, man. And so just things like that kind of that stand out in your mind from that time. Now, 20 years ago, I played in my first game in college almost 20 years ago now, which is crazy to think about.
And you look better than ever, Dagon. I'm so jealous. And I can see why. Your memories are people and moments, and my short time there, magic. That Frappin magic food. Oh my goodness. Look, let me talk to the people real quick. I started off as a defensive lineman. I was bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, had nothing but optimism, and just, I don't know if you remember me there or not, but just happy to be there. And then I discovered magic. Oh, first of all, the recruiting trip when it was wait, steak, lamb, or lobster? Where am I? Sign me up. I'm ready. I'm ready to come right now. Like, it was amazing. Shout out to Magic. Oh,
Yes,
I'm getting fatter just thinking about it.
Magic hooked it up, man. That
Yeah.
was good. That was especially during preseason camp, man. Magic, he would hook it up. That was my man.
Oh my goodness. And the accent said, "Oh, there he is, the big eater." Because I never got put on restrictions or anything. Like, I don't know why. I should have been. But like, he loved palate. Like, just give him this and give him that, and it's like, yeah. And I was here for it, man.
Well, you still managed to stay light on your feet. That's what I always remember about you. You had really, really good feet. I mean, you had trouble going to class, but you had really good feet.
Yes, thank you.
Coach Caldwell would be like, Trey, he's not going to class. I'd be like, he'd like,
what do we do?
Right. He's like, you need to make sure he goes to class. I'd be like, I'm gonna try, coach. I'm gonna try.
Yeah, man. Oh man. Look, let me tell you, like that 2004 time period was such a rough time period. So I had some weird thing, which, you know, fast forward, I've had to have like spinal, like surgery on my spine and all kinds of crap. So it was a little bit deeper than I thought, but like it was a weird, like I couldn't push off, I think, my right foot, and like every now and then it would go numb, and then I kept eating, so that made it worse because I got heavier and heavier. And then they were like, okay, we're gonna red shirt you, and that sent me into, you know, I didn't know it at the time, but depression. Like it, you know, and like going back home and people saying like, yeah, see, you didn't party and all this stuff in high school, and you got out there and lost your mind. It's like, I've first of all discovered I could rent a laptop from the library, and then I discovered there were more than books at the library. There were also DVDs. So kids, before Netflix, there were these round disc-looking things that were very thin. You put them in a little thin slot, and that's how we would stream our movies and stuff. And so that's what I did, man. I literally would check stuff out, go curl up under the covers, and then fake my way through practice, and then back to the bed. Like I don't know, it was like a weird moment. But like that
transition is tough, man. The transition to college is tough, and I mean, we know so much more now than we did, you know, 20 years ago.
Right.
About, you know, mental health and even just about that transition, right? It's this idea like you're either tough enough to do it or you're not, or whatever, you know? Like I think we know so much better now. And unfortunately, we just didn't have those tools, you know, at that time.
But I love that I have that experience, because now anybody I run into, like, hey, it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
Right. There's a reason. If you're just not going to class, there's a reason for it. Right. Yeah. If you are going to class and not doing well, there's a reason for that. You know, I mean, the world-class tutors at Vanderbilt University, right there. They would have given me a laptop. They would have had me in the study hall. Like, there was so many resources around me that I had never needed before, because I was always that kid who I figured it out on my own. And I kept saying that, and I kept lying to Caldwell and everybody, because I was thinking I can pull myself out of this hole, you know. And I just kept digging deeper and deeper. But now, like, I tell my children everything, and I get to see them like try themselves, struggle a little bit, get a little frustrated, then they know how to soothe themselves. Then they come and ask us for help, and I just smile every time, like, they're already so much better than me. This is gonna be so cool watching them grow up, you know.
Yeah, I know. As my 9-year-old, she came to us the other day and she said, you know, Dad, she was talking to her mom, and I was sitting there listening. She said, I set up an appointment for myself with the school counselor. You know, I've got my friend so-and-so, and I like to play with her, but then my other friend also likes to play with me, but they don't get along, and so then I can't play with both of them at the same time, and I just really want to figure out how I can kind of manage that. And I was like, wow. That's really great. That is really responsible of you. You know, like, so just them knowing that they have, you know, so much more awareness about that kind of stuff, you know. And I think it's great too. You know, we're lucky and fortunate that our kids are in a great school surrounded by great adults that love them and care about them, and they feel comfortable enough, you know, being able to do that. And they can, you know, it doesn't always have to be us that they ask for help. And so, but yeah, just the awareness that to know, to be thinking about that is great.
Right, man, that is good stuff. So about Murray,
Uh-huh.
talk to me. What I got to do? Is there an age limit? Is it too late for me to just like I don't know pretend like I had a huge growth spurt and hey I'm in 8th grade. I'm trying to get into the school. Talk to me.
The football coach may try to sneak you in there.
No,
He
he'll
and I
find
are
out very
always.
quickly. Those days are well behind me. I'm trying to get a good job. No.
Hey man, we got kids that are 5'10", 150 pounds playing offensive line. So I think he'd look the other way. Yeah, no, he'd look the other way.
Yeah,
He and
I'm
I,
about 14, 15.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
He and I do.
No.
He and I chop it up with the football coach a lot, which is fun.
Mhm.
Because we actually do have some kids that can play in college and like small colleges, not big, but that's always fun to do. It is a good school though, and I
Yeah.
feel I have one kid there now and I have two there next year. And so I feel lucky to be able to watch a little piece of that, like they're having the school is celebrating its 110th anniversary this year. And so they're having a big celebration tomorrow. And my son that's there at school with me, he's been so excited about it all week. And I'll get to
Uh-huh.
participate with him in a lot of the stuff because I work there. It's like you can't beat that, man, because you don't get that time back. It's like
Yes.
it's
Absolutely.
really great. So I feel super lucky to be there. It's like when I saw the job posting, I looked at my wife. I said, I think I have to apply for this job because we already knew about the school. And so I said, I think I have to apply for this job. It would just be so great. And it has been. So I feel fortunate.
Yeah. So ratios and things of that nature, right? I assume pretty good. Yes. Like
What
what's
do you
the
mean?
faculty to student
Oh,
ratio and things like that?
yeah. So, I mean, it varies by division, but
Mhm.
like my son's class has 12 kids in it. So that, 12 to 1 for some different things. They'll split them into even smaller groups, like they'll split them into smaller groups for like reading and writing type of stuff. Sometimes in science, they break them into little small groups, which is nice, and then I think in 4th grade, the classes start to get a little bigger. And then at certain points in high school, they get smaller depending on what you're taking. If you're taking a really advanced course, of course, the classes are really small. So the child to teacher ratio is really good. I like at my local public school, sometimes the ratios can be like double what they are at this school. So that focused attention that you get is super valuable. And then also too, I just get like, I think we have a lot of really good teachers at my school, and I get to know them, and they get to know my kids, and that helps because I do think parent involvement is really big in a kid's education, even at a place where, some fancy private school. So just being able to be involved from that perspective. Now that teacher may not always be happy with me because they may be mad about, a policy that we've developed out of my office. Yeah. Or, decisions we've made about their benefits, but at least we get a chance to know each other and they know I'm involved. I think that's so big. It's missing for a lot of kids, unfortunately.
Yeah, but that's the ideal, or I guess it used to be about community, right?
Sure.
Back in the day when, you're sending the father off to war and he doesn't make it back or something of the rather. I mean, I don't know. Like wages were such that pops could work and could afford a home and like buying a home and a couple of vehicles, good school and a good neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that's just changed so drastically, so fast. I mean, you're talking about in the last 60 years or so, that's really not relatively a lot of time.
Right.
But I keep going back to who do we have to convince? And I literally just Google, like, how many billionaires would you say there are in the world right now?
Oh, in the world?
In the world. The world.
Gosh, man, at least 1,000, at least.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I would say maybe 3,000 billionaires.
Very close. See, thank God, you so educated. 2,668 billionaires, or sorry, 1,000 billionaires worldwide.
Yeah.
And when I think about the presidential race, how you have to convince millions of people to vote for you or to donate or whatever it is, right? What if we convince less than 3,000 people that, hey man, you're gonna pay a lot, but if you give a lot, if you do a lot of good with your money, we're gonna give a bunch back. And it's gonna decrease the likelihood that I'm gonna rob you when I see you in the streets. You know what I mean? Like that ideal of like, take care of your neighbor sort of thing, community, right?
Hey, to one of the first points that you made about, I'm wearing my shirt, and you don't know who that necessarily reached. So so I can give you a little insight on something that we won't publish at my school for a while, but we have a theme every year. And the theme for next year is going to be generosity of spirit. And as soon as my head of school said that to me, just today, as soon as she said that to me, I said, yes. I said, yes, that is it. If there's something that we could get, especially our students at our school, right? Because at our school, we're in Washington, D.C. I can't tell you like whose kids, but we have kids of people in powerful positions that go to our school because just by nature of where we're located, right? All the private schools in DC have that. And you have the opportunity to make an outsized impact with those kids, right? And if you're teaching mathematics and chemistry and all that, that's great, and the parents want that. But if you can also teach generosity of spirit, right? And impart that on kids. And a lot of our parents have that, which is good. But if you can teach that to the kids, I think, and we're making good progress. These kids, they're very aware, and they push us to do the right thing. And it's uncomfortable for me sometimes. I'm not in the classroom teaching them. I'm like, golly, guys, the kids are really pushing me on the school becoming carbon neutral by 2050.
Right. The kids are pushing. That's
right.
important. I love that.
That's right. So, not that any effort like that would be lost on Bill Gates, right? Who's 70 years old. I think he generally believes that kind of stuff. But when you can make impact on the kids, right? I think that's where it starts. Because I do think that there was a big time period, and it started, we talk about Reagan and that era. I think in America for a long time, there has been a focus on what we like to call rugged individualism, right? And that is not what makes us great as a society. Rugged individualism does not make us great as a society. I think what makes us great as a society is when we look out for each other and we build community, and when we're able to look at each other as not just people that are co-workers or neighbors, and most people will just be that to us, right? To be clear. But when we do take the time to build relationships with people that extend beyond that, and they're people that you can call on when you have a time of need, and they can call on you, right? The bond as people, we're made to be bonded together. I don't think we are made to be broken apart and individualized. And I think that's why the pandemic was so rough on us. That's another lesson I hope we can learn out of that. People spend a lot of time talking about how bad the pandemic was, because it isolated people and this and that and the other, and we shouldn't have these lockdowns because then people were depressed and the businesses can't run. And I said, that's right. Now take it a step further. If the lockdowns were bad for people and their mental health, what would be good for us? It would be good for us to be together and look after one another, right? So, those are things that don't always come naturally to everybody, but when we can do that, I think it benefits us all. I really do.
Well said, sir. Like I try to teach my kids that, like, sometimes they get in these funks, like we all do.
Yeah.
And I say, hey, won't you do something positive? What do you want to do? Well, I don't know what I want to do. I say, well, how about we look at the other end of the spectrum, right? What do you not want to happen to you? Because you understand who I am. Like, if you tell me I don't know what to do, Dad's gonna come up with stuff for you to do.
That's right.
Right. So it was like, I can work on my art. I can draw, right? So okay, what are you gonna draw? And well, I'm not sure yet. So what do we do when we have a block? It's like practice skills. So like both of my daughters draw, and so when they can't think of anything to actually draw, get to shading. Draw 1,000 triangles if you have to. Like, just keep that muscle, going until you do feel like you've come across a muse of some sort.
Interesting.
Yeah, man. So I like that ideal of, if you don't know what you want to, think about what you don't want and bookend it, and you'll be steered to some very interesting places.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, before I let you go, oh man, I don't want to let you go, but before I let you go, I have a running question for
I'm
show.
willing to come back. I know you got other people probably to get to. I would love to come back and talk about personal finance. That is near and dear to my heart. I've actually, my wife teaches these childbirth education classes, and I really told her, I'm like, I have to figure out how to do something for her on finances for new and expecting parents, right? Yes. Because there are transitions and things you should think about. And personal finance is near and dear to my heart, because I know it's not something that everybody got. I didn't get education on it coming up. A lot of what I learned is stuff that I've learned from reading and putting it into practice, but it's so important, and it's important to start early.
Yes. So my wife is a personal banker. I swear I was listening wherever she's at. I swear I was listening. So she does something with Wells Fargo, and like something to do with money. I'm a little shaky on that, but
hey, that's all good.
And I've learned so much, and oh man, I'm gonna tell you right away. I'm gonna use you to lure her onto the show to talk about personal finances.
Yeah,
because she oh man, maybe she may kick me out of this chair, and it may just be a conversation with you two. Like anytime her and her friend get to talking about it, is her boss. If we go out to dinner or something, and they're just, and I'm sitting here like, okay, hey, how about that Dallas Mavericks team, huh? Everything's just so far over my head, man. I can't wait. Yeah.
Hey, well, for those of us who it's a personal thing, because you understand the power of it so much, like I just know, like when I first started working in 2006, like any dollar that I saved in 2006, 16 years ago, is probably $5 now, and so when you understand that concept, you want to tell other people about it, because it's good. It's good.
It's like me with the Gilded Age. Like, listen, if you don't have HBO Max, go do the free trial, whatever, and watch the Gilded Age. Like, just a sheer difference of classes, and why that is. It was on full display with that ginormous budget that HBO always slams on the table.
Yeah, but
yeah, man, you'll definitely. So you're talking to a madman. I have 3 podcasts because, as I said, I'm a madman, and I think you would be good for the other one to talk about personal finance. Yeah. So and that one's called Urban Academia, because I, consider myself an academic in that I've got a curious mind. Like I don't have any of the tools, resources, or the know-how, but I'm very curious about things, and that leads to some very interesting places. But the other guy is a felon, so Urban Academia, and so we try to figure each other out every Saturday night, and it's pretty interesting. So
that's good, man. No, a curious mind will take you a lot further than a lot of book smarts.
Man, your mouth to God's ears, back down to me in the form of a blessing. So here's the show question. I asked everybody this: if you are a car personified, what make and model are you, and why?
Oh man!
Answer the question, Senator.
I'm not a big car guy, so it's like I don't even know. I generally, honestly, I think of myself as pretty boring and understated. So
we call that stable. Okay.
Yeah, that's so right. Like what would that be? Like
Nissan Sentra, I don't know.
Yeah, well, so I was gonna say like a Honda Civic, right? People say those are pretty but though I'm smaller than I used to be, I still consider myself to be a big guy. Okay, so I would say like a Hyundai Santa Fe or something, because that's a SUV, not a huge one, but decent size. But it's a reliable car. You can count on it. It's gonna start up every morning, and you can drive it a long time. I think that's what I would go with. That's not it's not very flashy, and it's not my dream car or any of that, but that's what I would say.
But it's also something that, an NBA person or a doctor or anybody can kind of get on board with trying to sell to other people.
There you
right?
go. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
way better than mine. So mine is a clown car. So, but you see, pull up and beep beep is fun, it's goofy, and it's like, what is this thing? And then as the doors fling open, just stuff is flying out. It's more and more to unpack. So yeah, that's what I went with. Of course, my wife went with a Maserati. So
okay, all right, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Someone once asked, like, so are these two cars in the same garage? I was like, no. I've got to park down the block and then walk to the house.
She can't be seen with that.
Can't be seen with that. No, she's too bougie for that. Yeah, man. But listen, Trey, thank you so much for joining me, man. This is a huge thing for me. It's always weird reaching out to you Vandyites, right? Because I'm always thinking, like, that's such a sore spot for me. And so, like, it's weird, like, when I think Liz or maybe it was Jules, but I reached out to them and they were like, yeah, man, and hey, you should come down for homecoming and blah, blah, blah. And like, when I tell you I was on the phone and like in tears of like, they still love me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you coming by and can't wait to talk to you again about personal finance, man.
For sure, man. I've enjoyed it. This has been fun.
Absolutely. Anything to promote, or you got the festival coming up? You want to stand up and show off your shirt?
No, I don't know if I have anything to promote other than, like, be good to somebody, man. You never know what they got going that day. I think that's, we all, we can all do that, right? We can all be good to somebody every day because you never know. So I would like to promote that. Awesome,
man. Look, we'll just end it there. You can't get any better than that. Thank you so much, Trey, and you, the audience. Oh, I forgot to say hello, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Thank you very much. And for those of you who may be listening on Apple iTunes, Amazon Music, thank you for that. Go. Okay, there is no Patreon. Okay, my partner. There is no Patreon. Okay, Dean, there is no Patreon. You can't say things until they happen. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us. Peace.